positive body language. It's almost like you fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
It's like when you're doing a phone call, you should smile before you start calling somebody. It gets your mind into thinking, gets your tone there. Welcome to the next edition of the H Club podcast. Today I'm joined by my friend and my golf coach, Carter Bennett. Carter, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Carter. I'm a full-time golf coach. Been coaching golf for 10 years now with all different skill levels, ages, and in the past 6 years have really honed my craft at my studio space here in Toronto, where I've really focused in on working with more young professionals like yourself, people my age, and where there's a little bit less pressure, a little bit more fun and light exploration in our development journeys.
Yeah, so we do it for fun, but part of the fun is getting better.
Totally.
But it's funny that part of the fun of golf, and most hobbies for that matter, is actually the getting better, not the end goal of it.
Right.
It's the progress
Yes.
that is the fun part.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the captivating parts anyway with, I think any type of recreational or craft any person pursues is the challenge in growing and developing within that craft, and the pursuit towards mastery is something that we all kind of get captivated in whatever that craft may be. And golf for a lot of people becomes that because there is this like never-ending pursuit, and as well as the other factors around golf that make it so captivating, like we talked about, it's fun, it's social, there's amazing experiences you can have, so it's just like that brings people in, and they're like, oh man, I just want to get better at this now.
Sure. Very
similar to you, where it's like, okay, it's cool to go out there and play golf with my buddies, but it's like I kind of want to start taking their money or something. So, or it's just like enjoying their experience a little bit more, not feeling so lost out there. But as you get into it, the more you kind of get more captivated, and that's why I always say it's a journey without a destination. And as you progress, it just kind of evolves, and that destination or the goalpost just keeps kind of moving further away.
Yeah. So for our listeners, if you haven't figured it already, today's podcast is going to be a lot about golf, and it's a mutual joy that we share, but also why I think Carter is someone that I wanted to have this conversation with is because not only do we share this love for golf, but you're also an entrepreneur. You've built this super cool business. After some of our golf conversations, we've then had the business conversation. So there's like a nice, really cool tie-in between a shared hobby, passion, but then also, balancing that with the business that you're building and all that fun stuff to go along with it. So tons of cool things for us to talk about. Let's actually then start maybe at the beginning, right? Because we went to school at the same school at the same time.
Yep.
Didn't meet then, different groups of friends, but tons of overlap. Right?
Yes.
And then I remember I think it was funny enough that I reached out to you on a cold lead online on Googling and finding your profile, and then that same week I was meeting with one of our Hosper clients and I mentioned I'm looking for a coach, and he referred me to you at the same time.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty serendipitous coincidence, and then...
Yeah, we definitely have a tight-knit kind of network, and there's lots of overlap there. And I found like just within, our age cohort in the city, there's a lot of overlap, a lot of people kind of, oddly enough, running into other people who have spent time with me, either in studio or out of studio, and it's just crazy how small the world is.
It feels to me like golf is absolutely booming right now. Like golf is as popular as it's ever been, or do you feel like that?
Yeah, it definitely is, without a doubt. I've been engaged in the golf world for literally as long as I can remember, and there's been some peaks of it, but there's also been some big dips. And then since call it the COVID boom, it's in 21, 22, it kind of went to this place that was unseen, an absolutely new high level of engagement and interest in the game, which was really awesome for a guy like me, running a business in that industry. And it's slowed down a little bit since I would say kind of that 22 peak, but it's still, I think, I don't have hard numbers to bring this to life, but for sure, just in terms of my awareness to it all, it's still high. The interest in it is higher than it was ever before.
What do you think that's because just people got experienced because there were so few hobbies to do, so few things to do during COVID that people just tried it and then they loved it?
I think definitely like a lot of people were just like, there's nothing going on, I'm gonna just start doing golf. And a lot of my clients now that are just like got into golf 3-4 years ago, and I'm on the journey now, and they want to get better. It's also partially like our age cohort. Again, it's like, you stop playing hockey, you stop playing soccer, other recreational sports start to slow down, and you're kind of left with like what to do.
Oh, I didn't consider that angle.
Yeah, so there's, once you kind of get into your late 20s, it's like, what's going on? What can I do to kind of pursue something? And golf is like, hey, well, if you're 25, 30, you got 40 years of development ahead of you. So it's, I think that draws people our age in for sure. Another piece is like kind of the social media side of thing. I think like that has created a big draw in kind of making golf cool.
Yeah.
YouTube golf is this craze that I'm still not even really engaged with, as well as just your social medias, Instagrams, all the little bites about, whether it's swing tips, access to the pros, like you get to see behind the scenes like you've never seen again. And now it's like this thing that's kind of cool. It used to just be kind of like the old men go to the club and hack it around, play cards afterwards, and that's it. But now it's kind of become something a little bit more grand.
Yeah, it's the whole influencer, golf influencer vibe is interesting because you get the pros who are obviously the best of the best, and then you get the one level below, but they have more of that charisma, more of that.
Yeah, the characters.
It's all the characters. It's also they can do that because they're not competing at the highest level, so they don't have to really care as much about what they say. They can kind of yuck it up a bit.
Yeah.
That's interesting too.
Yeah, and they're just kind of like, they're making it fun, right? They're kind of showing that like you can go out there with your buddies and you don't have to shoot even par to have fun.
Right.
You can have fun playing matches and shooting 95.
Sure.
It's totally a thing. So yeah, I think it's all like very net positive to get people captivated, and that's always been something for me as a golfer, as a young person, trying to pull my friends into the game, and to this day, like growing the game is important to me.
So it's awesome that this is peaking. You're in the right place in the right industry. I think this is so cool. But how did you how did you first go down this path? Do you remember the decision when you're like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. I can make a go of this, and this can be my career.
Yeah, it's like many things when you're kind of like seeing a long-term picture. It's a blur, and there's no real clarity on what that thing will become. But I knew, like, I was at university, Laurier, and I was studying psychology, and I was loving those themes. And but you kind of get stuck, and you're like, what do you do with a psychology degree? And obviously, I had a huge passion for golf, and I always loved teaching. And back in my teenage years, teaching buddies, my mom or whoever, I always enjoyed that. And so I was like, you know what? I love the content of kind of the psychology themes. I had already some good other sports science kind of backgrounds, working in gyms, training myself as an athlete in other sports throughout the years. And I said, I think, taking on a career in the golf space and becoming a golf coach would be something that could work out for me. So once I graduated university, I started to pay my dues a little bit, get into the industry, being professional, worked at some golf clubs for a number of years, kind of doing that thing. And I always knew that wasn't for me, that wasn't my path. But it's kind of just like a stepping stone you need to take as a young person into the industry, getting reps, getting used to being around, making connections in the golf space. So yeah, then after the 2018 season, my last year as a club pro, I kind of took the leap and took on full-time freelance golf coaching.
Awesome. And now you're at this amazing space.
Totally.
Visit you frequently there. I would love to talk about your philosophy. So Coach Carter Golf
Yes.
you're not like a swing tip, let me, in the finance world, it's like a get rich quick scheme. You're not going to fix someone's game like that.
Correct.
But I love the building blocks that you've kind of given to me over the years.
Absolutely.
Almost 2 years, coming in on 2 years of working together.
Yeah, something like that.
So let's share it. Like share what's unique about your philosophy of coaching.
So there's could be a couple things, I suppose, especially as you kind of get more into like the minutia like we have, where there's like time and depth, and as we've evolved as a as a coach player, but the overall kind of philosophy is holistic in that we have to be, if we're looking towards a developmental journey, we can't just be looking at like what do we need to fix today, and like we have to kind of escape from that fixing mindset, and we have to kind of see the big picture and establishing a path. And as we can holistically kind of take on that journey, I think it's much more effective for us. So, in being holistic, it's a consideration of mind and body and what that entails, and how are those influencing our performance, but also how can we then influence it for our development, and being strategic about it so that we're ultimately just getting like the best bang for our buck, regardless of how we're spending time in the golf space. So that kind of
drawing. I know what you're all about because we've had so many hours together,
and it's hard to even just explain in like 2 minutes like what it is, right? It's like,
well, let's use my favorite tool that you showed me that kind of was like when you first showed it to me. We'll show it on the screen, so it'll be appearing shortly. I call it the emotional scale. Is that what you call that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, knowing that our viewers will be able to see the scale on the screen, like, can you talk about that? Well, describe it to me like maybe you did the first time you were showing it to me.
Yeah, so the emotional scale is kind of like one of the most important kind of components when we start to consider behaviors. And that's kind of part of the holistic approach, is that we're looking at like a human behavioral approach towards development. And particular behavior is our golf swing. And there's fairly good evidence to suggest how our emotions influence and dictate our human experience. So when we look at the scale, we have, up at the top, we have our, what we call high frequency emotional states. Those other words, a lot of people would just call them like positive emotional states. And we'll often just talk about productive. And as you kind of slowly move down the scale, it moves into kind of more of a neutral world. Then it moves into this like kind of clouded world. And then obviously it gets into the counterproductive, negative, emotional kind of space. And all of us can kind of relate to that, right? And again, it's just a human experience where, if you think about the best version of you, you're always somewhere up on top of that scale.
When you're the best version of yourself.
Yeah, and regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And when you're somewhere down, the 14s, 15s, you're not the most optimal version of yourself. Our emotions influence how we're perceiving our experience, the thoughts that we have in our experience, and how we move within our experience. So, like day one, when we would have talked about this, we would have used walking as an example, right? And if you think about how you would walk when you're at the top of that scale versus the middle of that scale versus the bottom of that scale, and the expression of the action of walking is profoundly changed. Not from us consciously saying, oh, I'm going to walk different because I'm happy versus angry. The behavior is expressed differently, and I think that one helps kind of captivate the audience into thinking, okay, hey, maybe this might influence how I'm able to move this stick around my body and interact with a golf ball with any amount of efficiency or not.
Well, I like that it works both ways too. We've had conversations where you talk about one of your focuses on the golf course is just positive body language.
Yeah.
And that's something that so I love golf just with friends as a hobby. I like playing by myself, but what is pretty incredible is that often I get to play with clients and it's productive for work. And honestly, I learned in the last couple of years, like I can hit the ball well enough that I'm not slowing anybody down, but nobody cares or even is paying attention if I shot 80 or 90. Like, they have no idea.
Totally.
Everyone's just focused on their own. But you just don't want to be the guy that's bad energy.
Correct.
You don't want to be the guy that's, consumed by the things that don't matter. You're out there for an experience to have fun.
Yeah.
And so another thing that you said that I really resonated with me is you talked about, my focus today is just positive body language. So it's working the other way on the scale. It's almost like you fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
It's like when you're doing a phone call, the coaches or sales coaches will teach you to smile before you start calling somebody.
Yeah.
Because they can, that kind of gets your mind into thinking, gets your tone there. And so it kind of shows both sides of the scale. If you are in that high frequency state, the one that I love is the confidence. Feeling like confident. Then you will present that. Your body language will present that. But if you don't just have it, you can't just. It's not as easy as just saying, right, oh, let me be perfectly confident right now.
Yeah.
You do these cues to help you get there.
Yeah. So we talk about like intention and having things to do to kind of influence your emotional state in
Right.
a direction or to help kind of regulate your emotions.
Right.
Intentions are tools or strategies to kind of create a presence within the experience, and generally as you're more present in your experience, you're going to be more neutral to positive. Right? And there's many things in life or in a golf experience that are going to influence your emotions in counterproductive ways, just like a sales call, where we need to be able to recognize that and say, okay, I need to do these things, like let's walk around with strong body language. Let's use the breath. Let's have some gratitude to help influence us towards a more productive place. And once we arrive there, again, our tone, how we perceive, how we act is expressed in a more optimal form.
The thing that I love the most about this scale, you taught it to me in a golf context, but I've since seen it play out in other contexts, both in my other hobbies. Right now, I'm really interested in getting better at squash as well, and it totally applies.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're nervous, if you're feeling nervous, if you're consumed by that, then you're going to be tighter. You're gonna, but it also applies in life, in things, in relationships, with, spouses, and relationships with colleagues too.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to, as much as this is like a perfect illustration for playing your best golf, it's so transferable.
Right.
Which is a lot of I think a lot of the reasons why I really appreciate your style of coaching and like the things that we've done is because it has been helping me and making me enjoy my golf progression more. But so many of these things, like the habits that we form, like separating think box and play box, and these things I have learned to like sort of see how they can play out in other areas of life.
Absolutely.
Which I think is so cool.
I think that's, and going back to kind of the philosophy, is that we're just humans, right? And it's, with a human behavioral approach, it's like these are human skills. They're not golf skills. They're not business skills. They're just human skills. And that's where they can transcend, my paradigm of golf. And you're not the only one to speak to that, for sure, within my clients as well. So it's great. One of the things that I enjoy is that you coming in and telling me that you're seeing how this is influencing your office, your home life, your squash life, whatever it may be. It's not just like this swing position has made you a better person. But,
sure,
the
totally.
lessons and the discussions and the explorations that we have transcended our small paradigm of golf.
So, folks in the Hosper or the H Club community will get to meet you. Thanks again for being a sponsor at our golf tournament. Those that are at our golf tournament will meet Carter. But let's give them a little teaser, right? We've talked a lot about your philosophy, a lot about the way you think about golf. But what's one thing that golfers should know? Let's try to pick. I know it's like saying like, give me one investment tip, and everything is so personalized and customized. But like, what's one maybe general tidbit that we haven't touched on yet that would just be like a nice teaser?
I think it is an extraordinarily hard question to ask, but I think a system in understanding like the behavior and what is influencing the behavior. So we would talk about emotional state, presence within it, the skill, coordination, and then the movement pattern and efficiency in movement. And recognizing those four components are all interacting at once as you're expressing your golf swing is really important. And then as a learner, recognizing how we have to strategically go about those. But in a nutshell, I would say how like as an overall theme, the quality in a golf swing or within the movement is very overrated. Coordination within a movement is going to override efficiency in movement.
Let's break that down, because I think I asked you to explain this 3 times when we were in session, and it was super enlightening once I finally got it.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you to repeat that exact same thing.
Okay.
So basically, you talked the coordination.
Yes.
Is less important than the efficiency.
No.
The other way around.
Right.
Please, yeah.
Efficiency. So everybody thinks like if I get the technical positions and orientations right, I'll hit the golf ball more solid more often.
Right, yes.
Right? But we just need more coordination within the movement. So being able to get the piece of metal down to the piece of rubber under different stance and lies and all that jazz. You can have an ugly golf swing and still make the golf ball do somewhat what you're desiring.
Right.
Right.
Because for people at my level, like we're not pros. We're not trying to get every last inch of
Correct.
energy to transfer from the club to the ball, which
Yes.
is like the Brysons of the world are trying to maximize their efficiency
Yes.
because they've already nailed their coordination.
And well, they have, but they're still training coordination on a daily basis.
Well, they both had a mastery over it, and then they're committing the time to maintain that
Correct.
level of coordination. So that was actually really great when we talked about that, because I remember I said something about it, because you believe anything when you're desperate.
100%.
So I'm like,
And
well,
there's
do I
so
have a
much
short
thing.
golf
Yeah.
swing? And then I remember you kind of looked at it, you were like, look at the numbers. You hit your 7 iron, 175. Like, you don't need to do more than that.
Yeah.
So let's not worry about that. Let's just practice.
How do we get it to happen more often?
Yeah, that was
Right?
cool.
And so that's where we go like deeper into understanding the influence, and that's the emotional piece, that's the presence piece, which we would talk a lot about, like focus and clarity in terms of being present within your shot experience, and then the emotional space that we're in.
Mhm.
Where are you there, right? And if, again, the emotions aren't matching up productively, good luck focusing. Good
Mhm.
luck having clarity in what it is that you're the task. Forget about the coordination, efficiency, and movement. Like that stuff's out the window, right? Because that's just there. Those neural pathways, those are conditioned. Whatever you got is what you got. So you got to go out there and manage the things that are in your control. That's where I would get in my coaching philosophy is more of like a mental game coach, or even golf in general is such a mental game. It's like the mental skills are influencing the performance, and it's what's in our control.
Mhm.
And very much can get away from us if we're not on top of it.
Yeah, like I think about, so I like that point that when I asked you the impossible, like what's one thing, obviously it's not going to be one swing tip,
Yeah,
but it's just understanding that there is, from a technical standpoint, there's coordination at play.
yeah,
There's efficiency at play, which is
Totally.
the power, energy transfer,
yeah,
which applies in putts all the way to driver.
totally.
But then, so let's set that aside as like, let's call it the technical piece of the golf swing, of our conversation. And then there's the strategy of golf too, like not even just controlling yourself, but making the right decisions.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
And everybody in golf, not everybody, but a lot of golfers get this idea that like once they master the technical, they have a beautiful swing, and they think they have the coordination to hit a golf ball farther and straighter, that decision making gets easier, emotional regulation gets easier, being present gets easier. But it's actually quite the opposite. And when we talk about decision making, like this is something I work on with my best players the most.
Mhm.
Yeah, we still talk about their movement, we still talk about their skill development, but the last thing I need them to be doing is hitting great golf shots into bad spots.
Mhm.
Understanding probabilities when we're out there is so crucial to your score, especially when you're looking for a stroke over 18 holes or 72 holes. One stroke could be the difference in making a paycheck, making a cut, beating your buddy, whatever it is. And decisions are often a very easy place to start to dive into and kind of investigate and figure out how can you shoot a couple strokes better,
Yeah.
just by having a little bit more thought before each shot.
So I want to move on to the business side of what you do, but I think that there's two more pieces of wisdom that, from my perspective, have stuck out to me. Golf wisdom. So can you share how you mentioned to me about some holes being par 4.5 or 4.1? So that was like really helpful from like a strategic, tactical perspective.
Yeah. So when you're looking at a scorecard, you just see 3s, 4s, and 5s, and then golfers get totally enamored by like, oh, I gotta make a 3 on this hole, I gotta make a 4 on this hole. But most of us aren't shooting to par, and then not all par 4s or 3s or 5s are created equally. Some par 4s are really hard, and some par 4s are easier. Same with 3s and 5s. So when we talk about like 4.5s and 3.8s, it's looking at as a golf hole as a whole and saying, like, based on your skill level, your beliefs, where you drive confidence from, how should you score on this hole? If you were to play it 100 times, what do you want to be? What would that average look like? So even for the best players in the world, par 3s and 4s generally average over par, even for the guy that wins the golf tournament. Par 5s generally under par. So, you as a 10 handicap need to be looking at a par 3 and saying, this par 3 is over 130 yards. It's probably going to average over a 3.5. So how are you going to ensure with that you're going to get the golf ball in a hole with 4 strokes at most, and maybe you get a 3. There's like a 50-50 chance, and it's like, let's make sure we're making a decision to not make a 5. That's what we need to really make sure we're doing when we're thinking tactically. Kind of depending where you're at, like double bogey avoidance is key. So it's looking at a challenging par 3 and saying, hey, you know what? Let's just take this on as a par 4. Hit a shot that you're comfortable with to a space that exists on the hole. Get the ball up towards the hole even closer, and maybe you'll make a 3. At worst, make a 4, and you can move on. Making the 5s or worse are killing your scorecard.
So definitely not playing to a 10 yet, which we'll get there. But I use that in the last tournament that I played with friends, where most of the time my score doesn't matter, but a few times a year you play with your friends and there's some little bit of something on the line. And it was the number 1 rated hole. It was it was like a long par 4, and I played it as a par 5, and I had like a tap in 5 bogey, and everybody made it worse. And that was just interesting use of that, implementing that strategy.
Totally. I think the other side to like tactics in decision making, it's also a very effective tool for acceptance. So when you make the bogey on the tough hole, you're just like, I'm like, bogey's good for me there. Like, I'm happy with that. You know, you're seeing it as like you only lost 0.2 of a stroke rather than a whole stroke.
That's helpful too. And so, I'm still in that fun part of the journey because I think the last 4 rounds I've played, I've had both a birdie on the card and a triple. So obviously when I would get better from score, we got to work on that. But from an acceptance perspective, that's been a huge conversation because, especially when with friends or clients, they don't be grumpy. So I got a triple, and it was the first time in my life, not first time, but it was a distinct moment since we were working on it where it didn't faze me. Birdied the next hole.
Beautiful.
And then for my level, that kind of neutralizes the damage. Anyways, let's move on. I want to definitely spend some time on the business side of Coach Carter Golf. So I'll leave it to you. I mean, what are you excited about in building your business?
Well, there is some exciting stuff now, over having my formal business for 6 years now. I've been super fortunate where I've been able to kind of create a lot of different opportunities, not just from a coaching standpoint, but within the business of being in the golf industry. So right now there's been some actions taken towards kind of how can I start to grow. And so I brought somebody in to assist me with that, as like I can't fill all the buckets myself anymore. I've been wearing all the hats for a long time, and it's just I don't have the energy, the time, the space to totally capture all those different opportunities. So somebody's come in and he's starting to kind of start to wear those hats, and we're going to play that out and see how that goes. I've just been super grateful and fortunate that my business is kind of like self-running machine now. I don't have to do a ton of marketing and putting myself out there. I have a great network. My clients, for the most part, talk me up and help drive people into my space, and the calendar is always full. And so I just show up and try to be the best version of me, and it's typically well received.
Are you thinking of expanding the element of your business where you've helped? I know you've helped some of my friends and myself with new equipment.
Definitely.
Clubs,
that's
swag.
In terms of business scalability, right? Like me, I'm giving out my hours, my energy. I can only go so far with that, and the equipment side is a huge piece that I love. I'm super passionate about it. I'm a tinker, diehard tinker, and equipment is a great opportunity to kind of scale the business, create some revenue where it's not demanding on my energy, and it's also great because it's a value to you, right? It's like I get this all the time. I get people coming in, they want to get better at golf. They're at a certain place in their journey, and I can see their equipment. It's like, hey, this equipment's not really helping your cause with either where you're at or where you want to go. And it's not always about like, okay, here's a $5,000 bill for the brand new latest and greatest clubs. It's like, let's try to work with a budget and get this set complete where you have tools that, for you is like grow into these tools. Learn how to get good with these, and you're going to be pretty good at golf. And I do that a lot with clients. So that side of the business is a huge opportunity that certainly with the new assistant. He's going to be taking that role on.
Well, I also appreciate the value, as a customer, consumer of your product, right? The way I look at things in life is like, I want to be an expert at the really niche thing that we do for our customers.
Yeah.
And then I want to have people in my life like you and the other coaches, the business coaches, the squash coaches, when I was into chess, the chess coaches, to be the experts that I can trust in that thing that I care a lot about. And so if that didn't transcend to like, what do you think is best for me? If I can't trust you to help me get the equipment that's good for me, like why would I trust the guy at Golf Town who's watching me hit 6 balls and then probably sells me the most expensive thing?
Yeah.
So like that's I think that's a super cool value for the folks that work with you, but then also I can totally see the business side where, that's something that you can scale that doesn't need your time specifically. Like if you're looking at the equipment, you're making sure it's set up properly. I don't need an hour with you every time I need a new, rain jacket or vessel bag or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we can just kind of tackle it on. It's much more. It's been very organic, that club piece side, which is great because like I don't see myself as a salesperson. I don't like that aspect as a business person. I don't like sales. I don't like accounting. I don't like marketing. So lots of limitations in terms of me as a business person. But when it's organic, it's right. Like the trust is there, and it's like let's look at this, and we don't need to figure anything out today. But over the course of however many sessions we're going to do, we'll try to tackle this and figure out a good course of action.
Yeah. So you do love the coaching aspect. You don't
Absolutely.
have to love it. I don't see you because you love accounting. So you're good on that.
Yeah.
And we talked quite a bit about what you love about golf. So I think a good place to end. What do you love about coaching?
Yeah, there's a couple pieces. Definitely human interaction, getting to engage with different humans, different human experiences, different humans in terms of where they're coming from, walks of life. I get a lot of cool conversations about business. People have their own advice for me and thoughts, and it's been great to learn from others. I'm not just the expert in that room, and so I can draw things from these human interactions. There's a challenge piece, like we were talking about, in terms of a pursuit of craft. Like there's a challenge. Like I want to be the best version of me and continue to grow that way. I'm not. I challenge myself to never be complacent with what I know, and there's always more to know.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite sayings is the more I learn, the less I know.
Yes, I believe that.
So it's like I'm always trying to challenge myself to become a better version of me as a coach, and of course like the other piece is it's rewarding. Mm-hmm. Any client sending me a message about a great experience they had shooting their lowest scores, any of their small wins are wins for me too.
Totally.
And it's not something that I like to boast about or anything like that. It's a nice little tap on the back for me, and it's like it helps me be more confident. It helps me continue to trust in my way, in my process,
mm-hmm.
And knowing that their success is being had. And I'm very fortunate that I get to receive these things that are very fulfilling and rewarding to me.
Yeah, I mean, I want to end this by just saying what an exciting or what a joy it is to have coaches and to be a coach.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that whether your hobby is this or cooking or anything really, find yourself somebody that you can be both a mentor and a mentee. I think that brings out a lot of fullness in life. And
Totally.
So I know you've got people to teach. You got some golf lessons later today.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by our office and sharing your wisdom with us.
Totally.
Friends, this was Coach Carter Bennett. I hope you can meet him at one of our golf events soon.
See you guys.